Black single mom mocked in boardroom. Hours later, she cancels their $300 government deal. Jasmine Carter adjusted the strap of her bag as she walked into the tall glass building. The morning sun reflected off the windows, sending bright streaks of light across the marble floor. She took a deep breath and reminded herself of how far she had come. Jasmine was a single mother of 2 young children, living in a modest apartment on the edge of the city. She had built her small tech company from scratch, starting in her tiny living room with just an old laptop and a dream. Now she was about to present her company's proposal for a government contract worth $300 million, a deal that could change her life and secure her children's future. As she stepped into the elevator, Jasmine reviewed her notes quietly. She had rehearsed this presentation countless times, speaking to the mirror at home, recording herself and even practicing in front of her children, who clapped and cheered at every run-through. Despite the nerves, she felt a spark of excitement. She had prepared meticulously, and she knew her company had the best technology and the strongest plan. If anyone could impress these executives, it was her. The elevator doors opened to a polished, high-ceilinged lobby filled with professionals in expensive suits. Jasmine's heart raced as she walked across the floor, feeling the weight of expectation and opportunity. The receptionist greeted her politely but with a hint of curiosity, and Jasmine smiled back. She could feel eyes on her as she moved toward the boardroom. Some glanced with mild interest. Others barely looked at her at all, assuming, perhaps, that she did not belong in this world of corporate power. When she finally entered the boardroom, the room was larger than she expected, with a long mahogany table and leather chairs that seemed almost too big for human use. Large windows offered a view of the city skyline, but Jasmine barely noticed them. The executives seated around the table looked intimidating, older and well-dressed, exuding an air of authority. Some of them were already whispering to one another, glancing at Jasmine in a way that made her stomach tighten. She could sense the doubt in their eyes before anyone even spoke. She placed her bag on the floor and her laptop in front of her. Jasmine straightened her posture and began setting up her presentation. She could feel the tension in the room like static electricity. A few of the executives exchanged smirks, leaning back in their chairs with arms crossed. Jasmine knew from experience that people often judged her before they heard her ideas. Being a black single mother in a male-dominated industry meant she had faced prejudice before, but this felt different. It felt personal. The first question came before she even finished introducing herself. "Are you sure you can handle a project this big?" asked a man with a sharp suit and an even sharper tone. His words were polite on the surface, but the hidden meaning was clear. Jasmine's heart skipped a beat, but she held her ground. She took a deep breath and replied, "Yes. My team and I have successfully completed projects of this scale before. We have the expertise, the resources, and the plan to ensure this project's success." Some executives nodded, but others chuckled quietly. One woman leaned toward her colleague and whispered, "A single mom. Really, she thinks she can manage $300 million. Jasmine caught the words, though she tried not to show it. Her hands tightened on the edge of the table. She reminded herself that these people were underestimating her, and that underestimation was something she could turn to her advantage. She began presenting her proposal, going slide by slide, explaining the technology, the timeline, the budget, and the benefits to the government. Her voice was steady, clear, and confident. She used examples from previous projects, showing graphs and data that demonstrated her company's success. She knew her product was innovative, and she made sure that every point highlighted its advantages over competitors. Yet as she spoke, she could feel the room's energy shift in subtle ways. Some executives whispered to each other, some glanced at their watches, and one even smirked as if she were delivering a performance rather than a serious presentation. The comments became sharper when she mentioned the cost. "Do you really expect the government to trust this much money to someone so young and with personal responsibilities?" one executive asked, raising an eyebrow. Jasmine's jaw tightened. She knew the question was meant to belittle her, to make her doubt herself. Instead of reacting with anger, Jasmine paused for a moment and allowed herself to smile softly. "I understand your concern," she said calmly. "Managing a project of this size requires focus, planning, and the right team. My team and I are fully prepared, and my personal life has taught me resilience and time management. I have the skills and the dedication to ensure this project succeeds." Some heads turned at her response. There was a pause in the room, as if her words had caught them off guard. Jasmine pressed on, using the brief silence to reinforce her points, highlighting the technical advantages of her system and the positive impact it could have on the community. She spoke about her commitment to ethical practices, her dedication to deadlines, and her plan for continuous support throughout the project. But the room did not fully warm to her presence. One man leaned back and muttered under his breath, "This is going to be interesting," with a tone of amusement rather than respect. Jasmine caught the comment but chose not to respond. She had learned that arguing with those who refused to see her worth would only waste her energy. Instead, she focused on the visuals on the screen, the charts, and the facts that she knew would speak louder than anyone's prejudice. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Jasmine noticed a few executives scrolling on their phones, clearly bored. She did not falter. She continued with precision, explaining every detail with patience. She imagined herself not just as a presenter, but as an educator, guiding them to understand why her company was the right choice. She emphasized innovation, reliability, and her team's previous achievements. Every slide, every point was delivered with calm determination. Despite her effort, the snide remarks continued. "Do you really think this small company can deliver?" asked one executive with a laugh barely disguised as a cough. Jasmine felt a rush of frustration but did not show it. She knew that her reaction was being watched, and any sign of anger would only confirm their biases. Instead, she met their gaze steadily and said, "Our size allows us to be flexible, responsive, and innovative in ways larger companies cannot. Our track record speaks for itself." She saw a few of the executives exchange glances. Perhaps some of them were impressed, or perhaps they were surprised by her composure under pressure. Jasmine could not be sure, but she refused to let their doubt shake her confidence. She continued to explain her team's workflow, the project milestones, and the safety measures they had in place. She detailed how they had handled similar projects under tight deadlines, ensuring no errors and complete client satisfaction. When the presentation ended, Jasmine closed her laptop gently and looked around the room. Some executives applauded politely, while others remained silent. She felt a mix of emotions, pride for delivering her proposal perfectly, but also disappointment at the lack of respect shown to her as a professional and a single mother. She had faced challenges in her life before, but this moment felt particularly sharp because it was not just about business. It was about recognition, or the lack of it. Jasmine packed her things slowly, taking one last look at the room. She noticed a few lingering smirks and whispered conversations, a reminder of the prejudice that still existed. But she also noticed a few nods, small gestures of acknowledgement from those who had quietly respected her presentation. Those small signs gave her hope that her efforts were not entirely in vain. As she walked out of the boardroom, she felt a mixture of exhaustion and resolve. The encounter had been humiliating, but it had also reinforced her determination. Jasmine knew that this was not the end of her journey. She had the knowledge, the skill, and the drive to succeed, no matter what others thought. Being underestimated had always been a part of her experience, and she had learned to turn doubt into motivation. Outside the building, the city felt different. The bright morning sun, the bustling streets, and the hum of traffic all reminded her that the world moved forward with or without the approval of others. Jasmine took a deep breath, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She had been mocked, doubted, and underestimated, but she had not been defeated. The boardroom incident was just one challenge, and she was ready to face the next. She stepped into a taxi and told the driver the address of a nearby cafe. Jasmine needed a moment to process everything and plan her next move. She thought about her children, their bright smiles, and the sacrifices she had made to give them a better life. Every challenge she faced was for them, and every setback was a chance to rise stronger. As the taxi weaved through the city streets, Jasmine reviewed her presentation mentally, noting the strong points and areas where she could refine her approach. She realized that, despite the disrespect, she had handled herself with dignity. She had not let anger control her actions, and she had spoken with clarity and confidence. That realization brought a quiet satisfaction. She knew that true strength often came in moments like these, not in winning everyone over, but in standing firm in one's truth. By the time she reached the cafe, Jasmine had begun to think strategically. She understood that this boardroom experience, as unpleasant as it was, could be turned into an opportunity. She could assess the executives' weaknesses, identify the leverage points in the contract, and plan a response that would demonstrate not just her capability, but her integrity and intelligence. The embarrassment she felt could become fuel for a stronger, smarter approach. Sitting down with a cup of coffee, Jasmine opened her laptop and began making notes. She wrote down the exact comments, the tone, and the reactions she had observed. She analyzed the boardroom dynamic, considering which executives were dismissive, which were neutral, and which might be persuaded with logic and facts. Her mind, sharp and focused, turned the painful experience into a strategy session. Hours later, Jasmine left the cafe with a renewed sense of purpose. The boardroom mockery had not broken her, it had sharpened her resolve. She knew she would approach the next steps not with anger, but with precision. She would use every resource at her disposal, every lesson from her past, and every ounce of her intelligence to navigate this challenge. As she returned home, the evening sky painted in shades of orange and pink, Jasmine felt a deep sense of pride. She was more than just a single mother. She was a leader, a strategist, and a fighter. The boardroom incident was only the beginning of a story that would show her strength, courage, and resilience to the world. After leaving the boardroom and stepping into the cool morning air, Jasmine Carter felt a storm of emotions swirling inside her. The humiliation she had experienced at the hands of the executives was hard to shake. Every mocking glance, every whispered comment replayed in her mind like a broken record. Yet, beneath the sting of their disrespect, a spark of determination burned brighter than ever. She knew that her next steps would define not just her career, but her sense of self-worth and the future of her children. Jasmine decided to retreat to a small cafe she had visited often. It was quiet, tucked away from the busy streets, with large windows that let in streams of sunlight. She chose a corner seat and set her bag down, taking a moment to collect her thoughts. Her fingers drummed lightly on the table as she reflected on what had just happened. The humiliation had been sharp, but it also revealed something important. The executives underestimated her. That underestimation could be used to her advantage if she approached it wisely. She opened her laptop and began reviewing the presentation she had just delivered. Slide by slide, she examined every detail, the points she had emphasized, the charts she had presented, the words she had carefully chosen. She noted the moments where the executives seemed genuinely interested and the moments when they had sneered or whispered behind her back. Jasmine was methodical, breaking down the meeting like a chess game. Every reaction from the boardroom could be a clue to how to respond strategically. Jasmine knew her company had the expertise and experience to deliver the project successfully. Her technology was cutting-edge, her team was skilled, and she had a clear plan to meet deadlines without compromising quality. The boardroom may have doubted her, but she understood the value of her work and the dedication she had poured into it. That knowledge became a source of strength as she thought about the next move. She realized that the power dynamic could shift if she acted with both intelligence and integrity. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mentor, Robert, a former executive who had guided her since the early days of her business. The message read, "Heard about the meeting. Don't let anyone's ignorance define your worth. Use this moment. Plan carefully, and you'll turn it into an advantage." Jasmine smiled at the message, feeling a wave of reassurance. Robert had always reminded her that resilience and strategy were her greatest assets. Taking a sip of coffee, Jasmine began brainstorming her options. One idea stood out clearly. She could leverage the contract terms to hold the executives accountable. There were clauses that allowed for review if either party acted in bad faith or failed to honor professional conduct. She could use these clauses to ensure that her company would not be taken advantage of, and that disrespectful behavior would carry consequences. It was not about revenge. It was about fairness and integrity. Jasmine spent the next few hours meticulously analyzing the contract. She highlighted every detail, every potential loophole, and every leverage point. She consulted the legal team she trusted, discussing each clause and its implications. Her team had always admired her attention to detail, and today, that quality became a source of power. Together, they explored scenarios and outcomes, preparing for every possible reaction from the executives. Jasmine felt a renewed sense of control. The boardroom humiliation might have shaken her, but it would not define the outcome. As she worked, Jasmine allowed herself a brief reflection on her personal journey. Being a single mother had not been easy. There were nights when she stayed awake, juggling her children's needs with business demands. There were moments of self-doubt when the world seemed to offer more obstacles than opportunities. But she had never given up. Every challenge had strengthened her resolve, teaching her resilience, patience, and the importance of standing firm in one's values. That resilience now fueled her determination to handle the boardroom incident with grace and strategy. By midday, Jasmine felt a clear plan forming in her mind. She would not react impulsively. Instead, she would prepare a measured response that demonstrated professionalism, intelligence, and self-respect. She knew that sending a calm, carefully crafted message to the executives would make a stronger impact than any angry reaction could. Her plan was not just about business. It was about showing that competence and dignity could overcome arrogance and prejudice. Jasmine took a short break to clear her mind. She stepped outside the cafe and walked along the street, letting the sunlight warm her face. She watched people hurrying along the sidewalks, carrying their own burdens, chasing their own dreams. In that moment, she felt connected to the world in a different way. Her challenge was significant, but she was not alone. Her skills, her team, and her experiences had prepared her for this. She was capable of turning even humiliation into opportunity. Returning to the cafe, Jasmine began drafting the outline of her response. She carefully chose words that would assert her position without appearing aggressive. She emphasized her commitment to excellence, her team's proven record, and the importance of mutual respect in professional relationships. She wrote and rewrote sentences, ensuring that every word conveyed confidence and clarity. She knew that the executives would receive many messages, but hers had to stand out, not through anger, but through precision and authority. As the afternoon passed, Jasmine's plan grew more detailed. She considered how the executives might respond, anticipating objections and preparing counterarguments. She consulted with her financial advisor to ensure that any decision she made would not jeopardize her company's stability. Every detail was accounted for, every possibility examined. Jasmine felt a sense of empowerment she had not felt in hours. What had begun as a painful humiliation had transformed into a strategic challenge, one she was fully prepared to meet. Throughout the day, Jasmine also reflected on her role as a mother. She thought about her children waiting for her at home, their laughter and energy, and how every decision she made impacted their future. That thought reinforced her commitment to handle the situation wisely. She was not reacting for herself alone. She was setting an example for her children about courage, intelligence, and integrity. She wanted them to know that facing disrespect or doubt with grace and strategy was a form of strength far greater than aggression or confrontation. By evening, Jasmine had completed her draft plan. She reviewed it one final time, making adjustments to tone, phrasing, and emphasis. Her message was clear. She would not tolerate mockery or disrespect, but she was willing to engage professionally and fairly. She would assert her company's value and protect her team's work, ensuring that her abilities were recognized and respected. The plan was firm, strategic, and grounded in professionalism, exactly the qualities she wanted to display. Feeling satisfied with her work, Jasmine closed her laptop and allowed herself a moment of reflection. The boardroom incident, as painful as it had been, had revealed both weaknesses and strengths. She had seen prejudice firsthand, but she had also seen her own resilience. She had turned hurt into strategy, anger into focus, and humiliation into a chance to demonstrate intelligence and professionalism. Jasmine felt a quiet pride in herself, pride that no one could take away. On her way home, she thought about the future. The executives might not have realized it, but they had underestimated a woman who had faced countless challenges and overcome them all. Jasmine knew that her next steps would be decisive, and she felt ready. She imagined herself sitting in another meeting, confident and in control, leading negotiations on her terms. The thought brought a smile to her face. She was ready not just to meet challenges, but to exceed expectations. By the time she reached her apartment, night had fallen. The city lights flickered in the distance, reflecting off the buildings like tiny stars. Jasmine unlocked the door and was greeted by the warm, excited voices of her children. They had no idea what had happened that day, only that their mother had returned with energy and focus. She hugged them tightly, feeling a deep sense of grounding. Her family was her anchor, her motivation, and her reward. After dinner, while her children played nearby, Jasmine reviewed her plan one last time. She felt confident that she had considered every detail, every possibility, and every potential challenge. She knew that the executives had underestimated her, but she also knew that underestimation was often an advantage. People who assumed they held all the power rarely saw the moves being made quietly, strategically, and decisively behind the scenes. As she turned off the lights and prepared for bed, Jasmine allowed herself to feel a sense of calm triumph. The day had been difficult, humiliating, and exhausting, but it had also been a day of clarity, reflection, and strategy. She had taken control of her emotions, analyzed the situation with precision, and developed a plan that would protect her company and her reputation. She had transformed a painful experience into an opportunity for growth and empowerment. Before drifting off to sleep, Jasmine made a promise to herself. She would not allow anyone to define her worth or undermine her capabilities. She would approach the next day with confidence, intelligence, and courage. The boardroom incident had tested her, but it had also strengthened her resolve. Jasmine knew that the path ahead would require focus and determination, but she was ready to face it, head held high, heart steady, and mind sharp. The next morning, Jasmine Carter woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. The previous day's humiliation had shifted into a determination to act decisively. She brewed a cup of coffee and sat at her kitchen table, laptop open and notes spread around her. Today was the day she would turn strategy into action. Every plan, every calculation, every detail she had considered the day before would now be put into motion. Jasmine's focus was sharp. She knew that timing and precision were crucial. She began by reviewing her email and communication history with the executives. Every message, every note, every acknowledgement was cataloged. She looked for anything that could support her position. Examples of professionalism, contract obligations, and instances where the other party's attitude had been dismissive or inappropriate. Jasmine knew that documentation was power. The more evidence she had, the stronger her position would be. Next, she called her legal team. Her attorney, Lisa, was experienced, smart, and direct. "Lisa, I need a strategy that ensures the company's position is protected and demonstrates that disrespect will not be tolerated. I want to assert our right to fairness without being aggressive," Jasmine explained calmly. Lisa nodded, immediately understanding the approach. Together, they reviewed the contract clauses, identifying key leverage points. Terms that required good faith negotiation, expectations of professional conduct, and the authority her company had to withdraw from the contract if obligations were not met. As they worked, Jasmine's mind also drifted to the human side of the situation. She knew that a purely legal response, while effective, could feel cold and impersonal. She wanted the executives to understand that their behavior had consequences, not as punishment, but as accountability. She imagined drafting a letter that was firm, clear, and professional, reflecting her intelligence and composure. It would be a message that could not be ignored or dismissed. Once the legal framework was clear, Jasmine turned to her financial advisor, Mark. She wanted to ensure that any action taken would not jeopardize her company's stability or reputation. "Mark, I want to understand every possible outcome if we withdraw or renegotiate this contract. I need to know the risks and the opportunities," she said. Mark laid out the scenarios in detail: possible backlash, potential media attention, and the reactions of the government client. Each scenario reinforced Jasmine's confidence. Her preparation meant she could handle any response with composure. By mid-morning, Jasmine felt ready to draft her message. She opened her laptop and began writing carefully, choosing words that were strong yet professional. She emphasized her company's capabilities, the value they brought to the project, and the importance of mutual respect in professional interactions. She included references to past successes and highlighted the clauses in the contract that supported her position. Every sentence was deliberate, every word chosen to convey authority without anger. Jasmine paused frequently, reading each paragraph aloud. She wanted the tone to be measured, clear, and respectful, but firm. She imagined the executives reading her message. No room for misinterpretation, no opportunity for mockery, only clarity. It was a reflection of her integrity and intelligence, demonstrating that professionalism could overcome arrogance and prejudice. While drafting the letter, Jasmine also considered timing. She decided to send it at a time when the executives would be paying attention, late morning, when the workday was in full swing but before any major meetings. Timing, she knew, could amplify impact. She wanted her message to land with precision, ensuring it would not be ignored or delayed. After completing the draft, Jasmine called Robert, her mentor. "Robert, I've drafted the message. I've checked the contract, reviewed potential outcomes, and I'm ready to act." "Does this approach make sense to you?" she asked. Robert reviewed the draft carefully. "Jasmine, this is perfect. It's strong, professional, and shows your authority. You're asserting your position without aggression." "Now it's time to send it and let them see your power," he advised. Jasmine felt a wave of calm assurance. She had done everything possible to prepare, and now it was time to act. With one final review, she pressed send. The email, concise but powerful, went to the executives, clearly stating that her company would not tolerate mockery or disrespect. She demanded a formal apology and a fair renegotiation if they wanted to proceed with the deal. The message highlighted her company's value and their ability to execute the project flawlessly, ensuring the executives understood that the decision was grounded in principle, not emotion. After sending the email, Jasmine leaned back in her chair, allowing herself a moment of quiet reflection. The action had been taken, and now the outcome was out of her hands. She reminded herself that the point was not revenge, but accountability. She had chosen professionalism and strategy over impulsive anger. Her focus remained on her company, her team, and her future. Hours later, responses began arriving. The executives were surprised, even shocked, by the clarity and firmness of her message. Some attempted to downplay their previous behavior, others tried to justify it, but Jasmine remained calm. She responded only as necessary, reiterating the importance of respect and fairness. Every interaction reinforced her authority and demonstrated her ability to manage difficult situations with grace. Throughout the day, Jasmine also focused on her team. She called each member individually, explaining her approach and assuring them that their efforts were recognized and protected. Her team felt inspired by her leadership. They admired how she had handled a challenging situation without compromise or anger. Jasmine knew that her company's strength lay not only in technology, but also in the trust and loyalty of her team. Protecting them was always a priority. Meanwhile, the executives began to realize the significance of Jasmine's stance. News of her email spread within their organization, creating quiet discussions and debates. Some executives began to reassess their behavior, understanding that underestimating Jasmine had been a serious mistake. Her careful, strategic approach had turned the power dynamic in her favor, forcing the executives to engage with her on professional terms rather than condescension. By evening, Jasmine reviewed the day's events with a sense of satisfaction. She had acted decisively, protected her company, and demonstrated that respect and competence were not negotiable. The boardroom humiliation had been transformed into an opportunity for empowerment. She had proven to herself and others that intelligence, preparation, and integrity could overcome mockery and prejudice. After dinner, Jasmine sat with a notebook, reflecting on lessons learned. She wrote down every moment of the day, the planning, the execution, and the responses. She wanted a clear record of how challenges could be turned into strategy. She also noted the importance of self-control, patience, and clarity in communication. These reflections were more than notes. They were a roadmap for future challenges, a reminder of her strength and resilience. Jasmine also allowed herself a brief moment of personal reflection. She thought about her children and the example she was setting for them. Her actions demonstrated courage, intelligence, and the power of self-respect. She wanted them to grow up knowing that challenges and disrespect could be met with strategy and dignity, and that true strength often came from calm, decisive action rather than reactionary emotion. By the end of the evening, Jasmine felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The day had been intense, filled with preparation, action, and reflection. She had faced adversity directly and turned it into an opportunity for growth and empowerment. She had acted with intelligence, protecting her company, her team, and her own dignity. The executives had been forced to recognize her authority, not through confrontation, but through careful, strategic action. As she closed her laptop and prepared for bed, Jasmine felt a quiet pride in herself. The boardroom incident had been a test, and she had passed with grace and skill. She knew that challenges would come again, but she also knew that she had the tools, the knowledge, and the determination to face them. She had transformed humiliation into strategy, mockery into empowerment, and doubt into action. Jasmine finally went to sleep with a sense of calm and purpose. She had faced the situation head-on, demonstrated her capabilities, and set a standard for how she and her company would be treated. The next steps were clear, and she was ready to handle them with the same intelligence, professionalism, and determination that had carried her through the day. The story of her resilience was only beginning, but she already knew that her actions today would be remembered as a turning point, a moment when courage, strategy, and self-respect overcame doubt and mockery. The morning sun streamed through Jasmine Carter's apartment windows, casting a warm glow across the room. She had slept well the night before, her mind clear and calm. The previous day's actions, the careful drafting of her letter, the strategic execution, and the measured responses, had all set the stage for today. Jasmine knew that the executives would be reacting to her firm stance, and she felt ready for whatever came next. This was the moment where preparation, patience, and professionalism would pay off. After breakfast with her children, she kissed them on the forehead and reminded them to be good while she worked. Her family had always been her motivation, the reason she pushed herself to rise above challenges. Jasmine's mind wandered briefly to how far she had come, from a single mother struggling to balance bills and childcare to a confident business leader commanding respect from executives in the corporate world. She smiled, thinking that the journey had not been easy, but every struggle had prepared her for moments like this. Jasmine started the day by reviewing the email thread once again. Overnight, she had received multiple responses from the executives. Some attempted to apologize, though awkwardly, while others tried to minimize their previous behavior, claiming the comments were misunderstood or taken out of context. Jasmine read each carefully, taking note of the tone, the level of acknowledgement, and the willingness to make amends. She remained calm, analyzing each response without emotion. Her approach was not personal, it was strategic, grounded in principle and fairness. She drafted her responses with precision. To those who offered genuine apologies, she acknowledged their words but reminded them that mutual respect was essential moving forward. To those who tried to deflect responsibility, she reiterated her company's position. Professionalism and respect were non-negotiable, and any further attempts to undermine her authority would have consequences under the contract terms. Every message reinforced her credibility and established the boundaries that had previously been ignored. By mid-morning, Jasmine received a call from one of the senior executives who had initially mocked her. His tone was cautious, almost wary. "Miss Carter," he began, "we've reviewed your email and understand your concerns. We want to ensure that this project moves forward in a fair and respectful manner. Can we meet to discuss adjustments to the agreement?" Jasmine listened carefully. She remained calm and measured, knowing that her strategic patience had shifted the power dynamic. "I'm open to discussing terms," she replied. "However, it must be done professionally and in alignment with the contract." This call marked a turning point. Jasmine realized that the executives were no longer underestimating her. They had recognized her authority, her intelligence, and her ability to act decisively when challenged. The humiliation she had faced in the boardroom had been replaced with acknowledgement and, more importantly, respect. Jasmine felt a quiet satisfaction. She had maintained her dignity while asserting her company's value, proving that competence and self-respect could overcome arrogance. The next few hours were filled with careful negotiations. Jasmine met with her team to review every detail, ensuring that all proposals, revisions, and expectations were clearly documented. She wanted to enter the meeting with a full understanding of her position, her leverage points, and the outcomes she was willing to accept. Her team admired her leadership, noting how she had transformed what could have been a discouraging experience into a demonstration of skill, strategy, and resilience. As the meeting began, Jasmine walked into the boardroom with calm confidence. The executives greeted her politely, their earlier mockery replaced by a sense of caution. Jasmine took her seat, reviewed the agenda, and began discussing the terms of the contract with clarity and authority. She emphasized the value her company brought, the importance of timelines and deliverables, and the necessity of mutual respect in all professional interactions. Throughout the discussion, Jasmine maintained a composed demeanor, even when faced with probing questions or attempts to negotiate aggressively. She responded with facts, examples, and references to past successes. Her knowledge of the project, her team's capabilities, and the contractual terms allowed her to address every concern with confidence. The executives, who had once doubted her abilities, now listened attentively, acknowledging the depth of her expertise. By the afternoon, the negotiations reached a pivotal moment. Jasmine had identified key areas where adjustments could be made without compromising her company's interests. She proposed fair revisions to timelines and deliverables, ensuring that her team could continue to deliver high-quality results while maintaining professional standards. The executives agreed to her terms, realizing that her approach balanced firmness with fairness, a combination they had not expected. After the meeting, Jasmine took a moment to reflect. The $300 million government deal, once a source of tension and humiliation, had become a testament to her skill and leadership. She had navigated challenges with intelligence, maintained professionalism in the face of disrespect, and emerged in control of the situation. Jasmine felt a sense of pride that went beyond business success. It was the pride of standing up for herself, her team, and her principles. The news of the outcome spread quickly. Within the corporate world, colleagues and industry professionals began to recognize Jasmine's courage and strategic thinking. Her actions were shared as an example of effective leadership, resilience, and empowerment. People admired how she had turned a moment of humiliation into a story of strength and professionalism. Her reputation as a competent, decisive, and respected leader grew, attracting new opportunities and partnerships. Jasmine also focused on her team, celebrating their dedication and hard work. She held a meeting to acknowledge their contributions, expressing gratitude for their trust and effort. The team felt inspired, understanding that their leader's commitment to fairness, integrity, and excellence extended to protecting and valuing them. This reinforcement strengthened the company culture, creating loyalty, motivation, and a shared sense of purpose. Throughout the evening, Jasmine reflected on the personal significance of the experience. She realized that the boardroom incident had not just tested her business skills, but had challenged her self-belief and resilience. By responding with strategy, intelligence, and composure, she had proven to herself, and to everyone else, that she could navigate adversity without compromising her values. It was a powerful affirmation of her strength as a leader, a mother, and an individual. As she prepared for bed, Jasmine allowed herself a moment of quiet triumph. She thought about the lessons learned, the importance of preparation, the value of patience, the power of professionalism, and the strength that comes from believing in oneself. She reflected on how challenges could be transformed into opportunities when approached with clarity and strategy. The experience had reinforced her confidence, teaching her that respect is earned through action, integrity, and competence. Jasmine also considered the long-term impact. The company's reputation had been strengthened, the team's morale had increased, and the executives had learned the importance of mutual respect and professionalism. The $300 million government deal was no longer just a contract. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when intelligence, preparation, and integrity guided decision-making. Jasmine felt a sense of fulfillment that went beyond financial success. It was the satisfaction of knowing that she had acted with honor, courage, and skill. The following days brought further recognition. Industry leaders reached out to congratulate Jasmine on her handling of the situation. Media outlets highlighted her story, emphasizing how she had transformed humiliation into empowerment. Colleagues admired her ability to maintain composure, assert authority, and achieve results without compromising her principles. Jasmine's journey became an inspiring example of resilience, strategic thinking, and professional excellence. At home, Jasmine shared the story with her children in an age-appropriate way. She explained how challenges and setbacks could be met with calm thinking, preparation, and courage. Her children listened intently, absorbing the lessons of resilience and self-respect. Jasmine wanted them to understand that setbacks were not failures, but opportunities to grow stronger, smarter, and more confident. As weeks passed, Jasmine continued to lead her company with renewed energy and focus. The lessons from the boardroom incident became guiding principles for her business approach: respect, preparation, intelligence, and strategic action. She fostered a culture where employees felt valued, empowered, and motivated to contribute their best. The company continued to grow, attracting new clients and projects who recognized the leadership and integrity that Jasmine brought to every challenge. Looking back, Jasmine realized that the humiliation she had faced in the boardroom had been a turning point. It had tested her resolve, challenged her confidence, and forced her to strategize with precision. Yet, it had also provided an opportunity to demonstrate her intelligence, leadership, and unwavering self-respect. She had emerged stronger, more respected, and more confident in her ability to navigate any challenge. One evening, after a long day of meetings and planning, Jasmine sat quietly in her living room, reflecting on the journey. She thought about the boardroom, the executives, the contract, and the strategic actions that had led to her success. She smiled, knowing that she had faced adversity with grace, intelligence, and courage. The experience had not only secured a major government deal, but had also reinforced her belief in her own capabilities. Jasmine knew that her story could inspire others, especially those who faced doubt, disrespect, or prejudice. Her journey demonstrated that skill, preparation, and integrity could overcome bias and arrogance. She had turned a moment of humiliation into a lasting example of empowerment, showing that challenges, when approached strategically, could become opportunities for growth, recognition, and success. As she finally went to sleep, Jasmine felt a profound sense of peace. She had navigated the challenge with clarity, patience, and intelligence. She had earned respect, protected her team, and demonstrated the power of resilience and self-belief. The boardroom incident had become a story not of humiliation, but of triumph, a testament to what could be achieved when courage, preparation, and integrity guide every decision. Jasmine Carter had faced mockery, doubt, and disrespect, and she had emerged victorious. Her story became a symbol of empowerment, illustrating that no matter the obstacles, intelligence, professionalism, and self-respect could turn even the most challenging moments into opportunities for success, recognition, and lasting impact.